PVTA. The website that he has up is available through PVTA.com, and it is an interactive map developed by the folks at PVPC, where you can click on any of the routes and it tells you what the proposed changes are. So it's just another way of educating the public about what the different changes are. And he will hopefully pull up the PowerPoint, and I will begin momentarily.
Here we go. Here we go. Here. Here we go.
Okay, thank you. So, as David mentioned, we are here for the proposed service changes and fare increases. I'm going to go through a little bit of background, go over the proposed fare increases, the proposed service changes, give you guys some information on how to comment, and then go over what the next steps are. I also ask, if you haven't signed in yet, please make sure that you sign in before you leave. So, PVTA. We have about 43 routes that cover 600 square miles and 24 different member municipalities. We are the largest regional transit authority in the state. There are 15 regional transit authorities. The MBTA is not a regional transit authority. They are different per state legislation. We do have 3 terminals. They are in the south. This is in Westfield, Holyoke, down in Springfield at Union Station. In addition to that, we have transfer stations or major hub areas in downtown Northampton and here at UMass. We have 4 different operators of our system, and they are located in up here at UMass, one in Northampton, one in Springfield, and one in Chicopee that operates our paratransit vans. We carry about 45,000 people a day, and there's an approximate population of 5,800 residents, but as you guys are well aware, because we are on a university campus, that number fluctuates dramatically. There are over 10 colleges and universities in our service area, and so that number ebbs and flows with the academic schedules of set colleges and universities. So this slide provides some breakdown on our funding. Our overall budget is $46.8 million, and the important thing I want to point out is this number, the 49%. So our state contract assistance, which is state money that we get, accounts for 49% of our budget, and that's about half. And this is just our operating budget, the cost to put the buses on the road. We have separate funds through separate means for capital programs, and I'm going to go over a little bit of that later. Our next largest is from our member communities, and they have an assessment, and that assessment is based off of the number of revenue miles and the number of passengers in set community. By law, it is only allowed to raise 2.5% each year via Prop 2.5 passed by mass legislation. We also have a significant amount of money from what's called 5307 money, and that's federal money, and that is the 14%, and I'm going to go into that a little bit more later. And then we have the fare box revenue that we collect from the buses that do have fare boxes on them, as well as from our customer service from the selling of passes. And then we do have a small percent that comes from other sources.
Excuse me, is that members community include UMass?
That is the municipalities. UMass is not a municipality. So in 2014, we had a much smaller budget. We had what's called Transportation Reform Act, and we got forward funding, which essentially we got more money. So there was a huge jump. We got about an extra $4.5 million. And as you can see, because we're aware, we added a bunch of service. Here in this region, the 30 and the 31 are running 15 minutes until 8 o'clock as opposed to stopping at 6 o'clock. We've added some additional trips on other routes. We added brand new routes down in the south. We put all that money that we received onto the road, and our ridership went up. We got a little bit more money in FY16. We made some minor tweaks to the service. The following year, you can see the number pretty much stayed the same. So in order to not have to cut back service, we flexed money over from our capital funds. That's our 5307 money. We are legally allowed to flex over a certain percentage from capital to operating. And so we, at this point, have maxed out the amount that the federal government will allow us to flex over. That also hurts our capital program in the long run. It doesn't allow us to replace buses at the pace that we should be replacing them, so we are running less fuel efficient, less environmentally friendly equipment, also equipment that is a little bit more money to maintain. So the following year, we were also level funded by the government. If you keep getting the same amount of money, but the cost for things keep going up, it essentially is a decrease in funding. And so we were here last year due to a $1.2 million budget deficit. In January of this year, we were notified, and we anticipated this, and so we began this process back in the fall, that the governor was going to level fund us again, back to $23 million. The 15 regional transit authorities have collectively asked for $88 million to balance all of our budgets, and we were given collectively 80.4. Because PVTA is the largest, we get hit the most. All of the transit authorities across the state are facing this problem and trying to figure out what to do. Worcester, which is another large one, had service reductions last year and a fare increase, and they're looking at doing even more service reductions. Berkshire is looking at possibly eliminating some weekend service. So everybody is looking at ways how to cut back service due to being level funded by the governor. So, how do we get to this $3.1 million deficit? Where does it come from? Well, fuel costs are rising. There's an increase in wage rates. We do operate with union contracts at many of our facilities. There's an increase in insurance costs, health and otherwise. Just the general inflation. And then that, coupled with being given the same amount of money level funded by the state, has resulted in a $3.1 million deficit for FY19, and we have to be fiscally responsible and respond to this, and as a result, unfortunately, have to go through service reductions and fare increases. So, I already addressed this slide. So, why a fare increase? There's a couple of reasons. First of all, Mass DOT is requesting it of us. They have said that we haven't raised the fare in 10 years. It was 2008 was the last fare increase, and that we need to be held accountable if we are going to be asking for more money, that we have to be doing our part as well. We do have the second lowest fare in the state. And the rising costs of doing business and being level funded with the state. So this is a graph that shows a brief history of PVTA's fare increase. So the last one happened in 2008. It went up from $1 to $1.25. And as you'll notice, in 97 and in 98, there's the little green arrows when the fare increased. There wasn't a huge dip in ridership, and that was because at the time it was just a fare increase. There was no service reduction attached to it. In 2004, there was a fare increase from 75 cents to $1, but at the same time, due to budget issues, PVTA had to reduce service, and that is why there was a reduction in trips. Moving forward in this year, we anticipate that it will be very similar to 2003, 2004, but it is hard to disseminate if the passenger decreases are a result entirely of the fare increase or entirely of the service reduction or a combination of that. It's hard to determine what percentage is allocated to what percentage, but we are anticipating a decrease. So, this is the proposed fare increase. This is what was approved by our board to bring to public hearing. It is a 25% increase across the board on all fare types, passes, and media. The ones to note are the base cash fare is going up to $1.60, and the passes, the 31-day passes, are going up by $11. There's still the $2 discount if you purchase it at Big Y. Transfers will remain the same at 25 cents. Our paratransit, which are the smaller vans, those are going up proportionally as well. And then we have this additional one, the 3/4 mile, which I will talk about in a few upcoming slides. So, in addition to this proposed fare increase for 2018, we are looking ahead, planning for the future, and showing to MassDOT that we aren't just going to wait 10 years, that we are trying to be more fiscally responsible. And so we have come up with a plan to increase the fares approximately 5% every year, but it would be implemented every 3 years. And so see here in 2021 and 2024, these are just a plan. All of this is proposed at the moment, but these two are just a plan. If and when these were to ever be implemented, excuse me, we would be going back out to public hearing, going through the proper processes and requirements that we have to in order to get these passed, but it is a plan for the future. So moving on to the service change proposals. So one of the big one, and this is a system-wide, every single one of PVTA routes, we are reducing Saturday service to meet current Sunday service levels. And so what this means is if a route does not operate on Sunday, it will no longer operate on Saturday. If a route starts later or ends earlier, it will also start later or end earlier on Saturday, and if it has less trips per hour, it will have less trips per hour on Saturday. Essentially, we'll have weekend service and weekday service. Every single one of the routes that PVTA operates right now is on this proposal for this, so that's the Springfield ones, the Holyoke ones, the Chicopee ones, the Northampton, every single one of them. So on two holidays, and this is probably more applicable to the southern region and to Northampton, we do operate Saturday service. That would be Columbus Day and Veterans Day, and we are proposing to operate Sunday service on those holidays. Here we operate what's called reduced service, and so whatever the new reduced service is on the upcoming ones that I'll talk about is what it would be on those holidays, with a few minor exceptions. So, the big ones for this area are also schedules that impact, things that impact when the students are not here. So that's what we call reduced service days or no school periods. And so we are looking at ending service earlier on these reduced service days for the routes that operate out of the UMass facilities. So that is 30, 31, 33, 34, 35, 36, 38, 39, 45, 46. And so ending them earlier on reduced service days, though some of those routes do not actually operate on reduced service days, but ending them earlier at approximately 9 o'clock, eliminating Sunday service on reduced service days, reducing the frequency on the 30 and the 31 on these reduced service days. And the reduced service days, once again, are the days during summer sessions, the winter, spring break, when the academic calendars, the students are not here. Additionally, we are looking at restructuring poor-performing routes and or segments with the elimination of some that are not continuously poor-performing. And we do have information in the back about what those restructured poor-performing routes are. And offhand, they are the Nashawanic Express that is being restructured, the Palmer Ware shuttles, which are being restructured, the 39, which is being restructured, the 24, which is being restructured, that is a Holyoke route, and the 17, which is being restructured, and that is a Springfield-Wilbraham route. We are looking at eliminating senior van service to adult day health centers and to non-PVTA member municipalities. So adult day health centers, these individuals attending these, their insurance or Medicaid has means and has the funding available and is supposed to be transporting these individuals through Human Services Transportation, so they would be shifting them from PVTA trips to these other trips. So these individuals would still be able to get there, but it wouldn't be funded through the PVTA. It'd be funded through the mechanisms that have the ability and the fundings for these trips and purposes. And then the non-PVTA member municipalities would be South Deerfield, Enfield, Southampton, Munson. We have very, very few senior van trips that go to these, but it is under the precedent that PVTA member municipalities pay for this service, so therefore it should be limited to PVTA member municipalities, the 24 that I mentioned. This is only for the senior van service. This is not for the ADA, the paratransit van service. So for both the paratransit van and for the senior van, we are proposing an additional fare if you go beyond 3/4 of a mile of a fixed route. And so I'm going to move on to this slide so you have a little bit more better graphic, and this map is a little old, so bear with me, but The dark black here, that would be your fixed route. The gray, that's 3/4 of a mile around that. And so, per FTA, Federal Transit Administration, they require us, under the ADA Act, that we must provide complimentary paratransit service for ADA passengers within 3/4 of a mile of all of our fixed route during the hours, times, days, and periods that we operate set fixed route. PVTA, if you may or may not be aware, goes far and above and beyond that, and we service the entire municipality. And so we are proposing that if you want to either start or end your trip outside of this gray zone, it would be a higher fare because it is not federally required that we operate this. But we felt that instead of eliminating it, it would be better to have a higher fare so that we can still serve those individuals, because the van service is one of our most expensive services to operate, and the trips outside of the gray area typically are more expensive because they're more spread out and we can't group passengers and be as efficient as we would like to be. So you can see here there's a bunch of different changes, and this information is also available online. There is a handout in the back. There are boards in the back. And this is a continuation of it. And so I just want to give you a little brief description of how we got to here. So when we were notified or came about that we were going to have this deficit, we started this process of looking at where are we going to cut $3.1 million from. We looked at all of our routes, the times, the days, the periods of the year, looked at how they were performing, looked at their performance measures, how they compared to what their key performance indicators were, looked at what the ridership per hour, per trip, what it generated. And we had over 100 different potential things that were modeled and looked at to determine cost savings. We created 7 different scenarios. We presented those scenarios to the board, and the board selected the ones in front of you, this scenario in front of you, because this is the scenario that would reach the $3.1 million needed, but had the least amount of impact on passengers as possible. So this one is an estimated potential impact of 1.15 million passengers potentially impacted. That's both paratransit and the fixed route buses. Some of the other ones had as much as 3 million people potentially impacted. So you probably all want to comment, and so there are multiple different ways. So you can go online to our website, or to surveymonkey.com to this URL, and from our website you can also access a link to bring you there. You can scan this QR code. There's some leaflets up at the sign-in table, as well as information in the back about how to access these. You are attending one of the public hearings. We are having 9 public hearings across our service area. This is our 5th public hearing. We have one more public hearing left in Amherst, 1 in Chicopee, 1 in Holyoke, and 1 in Springfield. We've also done outreach sessions at our transfer hubs and terminals, and we've gone to different groups that have requested us to come and speak and give information, and the different member municipalities that have also requested that. I think we've done upwards of almost 20 different combination of outreach sessions or public hearings. We have this email that you can email your comment to. You can call this number and go to this extension and leave up to a 3-minute message. It will cut you off after 3 minutes. That's the max it can record. So please make sure your message is in 3 minutes so that we can get all of it. We really want to make sure that we get your complete comment. Then if you want to do the old-fashioned way, you can snail mail it to our administrator, Sandra Sheehan, at PVTA Administrator, and this is our address in Springfield. All of these comments, as David had mentioned, whether they're recorded here or they're recorded here at this meeting or any of these other meetings, we are taking all of these comments, the verbal ones, transposing them to written, recording, commenting, compiling, and tweaking our proposals. So the next steps. So we are going to complete the public hearing and outreach sessions. Everything has to be done by March 14th. And our last one is actually scheduled for March 12th in Chicopee. We're going to use all of the public comments that we have received to revise our proposal. On April 11th, our advisory board will vote on the proposal for fare increase and the proposal for fare changes. That is going to be at noon, and the location, it will be in Springfield, most likely at the PVPC offices. That is at 60 Congress Street, but it is not finalized yet. We have to do it by the 11th because we have to adopt our budget by the 23rd. We need to be fiscally responsible because our budget begins July 1st. So when would these get implemented? So the changes to Northampton and Amherst would get implemented on May 12th or 13th, that weekend, essentially after graduation, after the students have left. The ones in the greater Springfield area, which includes Chicopee, Holyoke, Westfield, those will be implemented on June 24th. And then the fare changes would be implemented by July 1st, sometime between the 24th of June and the 1st of July. And so before I open it up to questions, I just want to state that we are here to listen to you. We want to take questions first. We want to be able to answer those questions because someone else might also have that question. If you want to provide a statement, provide some sort of recording, we'll be glad to do that afterwards. We have the recorder over here, but we want to make sure we capture that. So when you ask your question, I'm going to repeat it back, so that way we get it. And then I will provide the answer, and then afterwards you can come up and we'll have someone that, with the recorder that you can record your comment, testimony, etc. into. So if there are any specific questions, either myself or someone from my team could hopefully answer it. If not, we will be glad to take your information down and get back to you. So your hand went up first.
What monies does UMass provide to the PVTA?
UMass, and I believe it's about $900,000, but they do not pay the PVTA. They pay the local assessments for the member municipalities. So it does not count as fare box revenue to us. So they pay the local assessment, and they also pay a portion to 5 College Inc. 5 College Inc. Pays the local assessment for the 38, the 39, and the B43. And then this gentleman.
Are there any decision makers from the PVTA advisory board in the room right now? Just wondering, is there any decision makers in the room?
The question was, are there decision makers? I do not believe we have any board members. We did have some at yesterday's, and we one at the Springfield one, but we do not have any, appears to be board members at this one.
The Amherst board member for PVTA is Doug Slaughter.
So you said on service days like the weekend that you're expecting buses to end service earlier. Is that correct?
Correct. So on reduced service days, weekdays and Saturdays, the buses would end earlier. On Sundays, there would be no service, so it would end at approximately 9 p.m.
On Saturdays and Sundays?
On Saturdays, yes. On Sundays, during this proposed reduced service days, that there would be no Sunday service on the routes that operate out of our UMass garage. The B43 and the R29, which service this area, would still operate on Sundays.
So like the 30 and the 31 and those would not operate past 9 p.m. on Saturdays?
Correct. The 30 and the 31 would not operate past 9 p.m. on Saturdays during reduced service periods only. On full service, when the students are around, it would end at the time that it currently ends on Sunday, which I believe is midnight, 12:30, Glenn? About 1 o'clock. Individual standing in the back.
I'm curious if there's a local study or maybe a study made of other transit authorities that assess the difference in sort of time and delay when smaller coinage starts getting put into the mix, because we're moving from $1.25, $1.25, to $1.60 for the grand fare, which means people have to start juggling dimes and nickels. I'm just wondering if there's been any observation if that increases time taken just at stops. Because, I mean, I have my own anecdotal observations, but I'm curious if there's been any actual scientific glance at that across any other transit organizations.
So the question was, does having smaller coinage result in longer times for people to have to put their money into the fare box? And the answer is yes. I have read several studies. They were more applicable to trying to convert over to technology such as smart card readers or mobile applications to pay, and that those reduce what's called the dwell time, where the just waiting to put the coinage into the vehicle. This gentleman had his hand up.
Yes. Besides fare increases and service cuts, has the PVTA considered any other methods of generating revenue or saving money?
Yes. So we have several. So we have a couple of applications in for CMAQ funding, congestion mitigation air quality, to help fund some of our redesigned routes. We are working with 5 College Inc. We're going to contract with them that they would provide additional money to PVTA that would count as fare box revenue above and beyond the local assessment that they pay. We've also had a couple employees who have left since last summer, and those positions have not been replaced, and those duties have been distributed among the existing staff. And we're working with MGM to get funding for some of the routes down in the south for later evening, but we're in the process of that as well.
What is MGM?
There's a casino going in down in
yeah,
Springfield.
sorry.
I'm not really sure what it stands for, actually.
That's what Golden Meyer used to be.
Could be.
I thought it was simple.
No, it's the casino. Gentleman in the back there?
Can you explain in like layman's terms what the local tax assessment means and how that relates to UMass?
So we operate a bus in a town. We figure out how many miles, how many people we carried based on our technology. Figure out what how much the local assessment is based on that number. We give it it comes right off the cherry sheet of the town. The town says, hey, UMass, I had a $400,000 local assessment. UMass pays to that town the local assessment or to 5 College. Does that explain how the assessment works?
Yeah.
Okay.
When the last bit of service changes happened, there was something in the news about how the 5 colleges, there was some gap in sort of funding that was supposed to be coming out of that sort of 5 college pool and the funding that was actually received. I didn't really hear anything after that fact. Does anybody, if that sounds familiar, I remember there being a lot of churn about that in the news, about, well, you know, the 5 colleges aren't paying their fair share relative to that. Is that accurate? Is that an accurate take, or is that?
So I've been in this position since November, so I was not here this summer. My understanding, that is why we are working with 5 College to get additional funding from them to offset some of the costs of operating those routes, especially the ones that are a little poor performing. Are there any gentlemen?
Well, for me, like public transportation is part of the infrastructure designed for the well-being, by the government, for the well-being of the citizens. That way it eradicates poverty, that's been intentionally imposed by lawlessness. So at the same time, almost over 63% of the money comes from the government.
From the federal or state, yes.
From the federal and the state.
Yep.
At the same time, when you're serving, the public, you don't expect profit.
No, we don't expect any.
No, you don't expect.
There are no
But
transit
don't you
systems
think,
that
so if this amount of money that's really coming, over 60-something%, and at the same time here, UMass, in terms of an educational department, intervening, is part of it. Don't you think maybe it's the weakness of the PVTA for not really providing the service that, that the weakness is only part? So the weakness of the PVTA has no right to impose, increase of transportation on the public. So in other words, what I'm saying is like, either you have to really go and just see what's going on, within the PVTA. There's a lot of, interference. Wherever the money is coming, then the profit coming, the profit making at the same time, which is really interfering, at rate, saying to the wellness of the benefit, the public. So this is what I'm really seeing the problem. And so you really have to.
Do not make a profit. We are a nonprofit organization.
But at the
We
same-
are.
But that's what I see. Over 60-something%, coming from the government. That's a good amount of money.
And so for this portion here, we're just trying to tease out questions that will help people.
But what I'm
inform.
trying to say is at the same time, why not at the same time, see maybe it's the weakness, the management weakness that you have to really consider. That's just what I'm saying.
So your question I'm hearing is, have we looked at better management to generate some of the
that's
savings?
just what I see here.
Okay,
Right now.
great, thank you.
So I'm looking at the deficit from the state, what the state gives you. I think most of us here are residents of Massachusetts, and we can contact our representatives and say, well, this is a service that we need. Is it too late for this year, you think, to contact them? And, they haven't passed their budget, I'm sure, for FY19.
So these are just proposed. I'm going to pass this off to PVPC to answer because I am not legally allowed to lobby on behalf of PVTA. But he can.
It's not really lobbying, but you raise a very good question. We're at a point in the budget cycle where PVTA has to initiate this outreach process and make a decision by April.